I dedicate this review to Will Flores and the students and staff of Inarajan Middle School for inviting me to their school, allowing me to ramble incessantly about YouTube for 6.5 hours, and making this pretty awesome drawing at the end of the day. I appreciate everything you guys did for me, and make sure you keep striving for excellence. This review is for you, so enjoy! How's it going, everyone? Black Spider Guy here to review the latest Spider-Man film to hit the cinema. I feel like we get one every year now. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse follows Miles Morales, an average kid who gets the Peter Parker origin story treatment, and I'm sure you all are familiar with what that is. I don't need to explain it. But here's the twist. He ends up teaming up with other Spider individuals to stop Kingpin from opening up a rift to other dimensions, as well as sending them back to their own dimensions. Now, upon seeing the first trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse last December, I won't deny, guys, I was instantaneously hooked. I could not wait to see this film. I mean, aesthetically speaking, the film already looked amazing as its animation was vivid, energetic, stylistic, and quite unique. It's a comic book aesthetic done with 3D animation. I honestly have not seen an animated film like that, so that already got me excited. The music that accompanied the trailer was freaking epic, and if anybody knows the name of that song, which I played at the beginning of this video, please let me know. I want that song. I want to download it. I'll buy the album. I'll buy everything just so I can get that song. That song is so good! And I was so excited that they were finally telling another Spider-Man origin story that wasn't Peter Parker. For the last 20 years, it's been Peter Parker-centric. And I understand he's an iconic character. I love Peter Parker. But I was so excited that they were going to focus on Miles Morales, who ever since his introduction in the late 2000s, I've always wanted to see a story following him. He's such an interesting character with an interesting story. So I was very excited to see that he would be center stage in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Although, he had a lot of help throughout the film with other spider individuals from other dimensions. And Peter Parker is still a heavy influence in this film. But I'm perfectly fine because I gotta tell you guys, after waiting a year to see this film, it did not disappoint. This is by far the best Spider-Man film I personally have seen, since I guess Spider-Man 2. I would say The Amazing Spider-Man, but upon thinking back to it, it was a solid movie. I won't say it's a great movie, but it's a solid movie. The last great Spider-Man movie I've seen was in 2004 with Spider-Man 2. So 14 years later, and Sony finally nailed it with another solid Spider-Man film. Good job, Sony. So what is it about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that makes it work so well? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the animation, still freaking fantastic. This is some of Sony Animation's best work, and they don't really have much when it comes to good animation, but this is excellent. I love this whole comic book aesthetic done with 3D animation. It looks so distinct. The environments and backgrounds are vivid and lively, although I have a bit of a problem when it comes to the backgrounds that I'll touch on a little later. And the character designs are all distinct and unique in their own way. Each of them are drawn differently to help them stand out from each other, especially when it comes to the Spider individuals. Spider-Man Noir is drawn more rigidly, Spider-Ham is drawn more cartoonish, Penny Parker is drawn in anime style, and it helps to really give them their own sense of personality without really them talking. It's just visually speaking, you get a sense of what they're like. You can tell that Spider-Man Noir takes himself seriously. You got Spider-Man Ham, who's more cartoonish because of the way he's drawn, and of course, Penny Parker, who I'll talk about her a little later, but trust me, all good things, all good things. I found the story to be quite enjoyable and enthralling. Yeah, sure, it's another Spider-Man origin story, and those are like a dime a dozen these days. We have seen that so many times. It's been beaten into the public consciousness. It's like seeing Batman's parents getting shot again. We get it. But I like the way that they executed this origin story. It's a bit refreshing and different from other Spider-Man origin stories, especially since it follows Miles Morales. And I do like how he kind of grows into being Spider-Man, how he takes the helm of being Spider-Man. I also like the idea of different Spider-Men or Spider individuals from different dimensions all coming together, teaming up to fight a bad guy. That's pretty cool. That's pretty enthralling. And the humor in this film... It's fantastic, guys. I was smiling from ear to ear and laughing my butt off from beginning to end while watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Many of these jokes just landed for me. And what's so great is that it's consistently funny. It's not like it's funny in the beginning, but in the middle it drags and there's not a lot of good jokes, and then it's funny at the end. No, almost every other minute there was a solid, good joke, a funny interaction, or some funny bit, or some funny self-referential humor. I mean, it's just excellent execution and delivery from the characters and solid writing and great wit. I personally really enjoyed the self-referential humor. It was always spot on for me, and it makes a lot of sense because one of the people who wrote this film was Phil Lord, who's part of the Phil Lord-Chris Miller duo who were responsible for making 21, 22 Jump Street, and the Lego Movie. And what worked for those movies? The self-referential humor when they were poking fun at the material or being really witty, comical, and funny. He really worked for this film. He brought a lot of life to the humor, and I'm glad that they brought him along, although that really makes me question whether or not Chris Miller is just riding Phil Lord's coattails, because you don't see Chris Miller's credits in the writing, so what gives? Who does the writing and who does the director? I'm watching you, Chris Miller. Are you just milking off of Phil Lord's talent? Naughty, naughty. But not only is the story comical and fun to watch, but it has a surprising amount of heart to it, especially when it comes to the interactions among certain characters and their relationship with those characters. Like Miles with Peter Parker, Miles with his father, Miles with his Uncle Aaron. Really well done moments with these characters, and it really hits you in the heart. And I forgot to mention this when praising the animation, but the action scenes are so riveting to watch. I loved every single action scene in this film. There's not a boring action scene to be found. Each was energetic, lively, distinct, just a hoot to watch. And seeing all of these different spider individuals using their specific powers to fight off Kingpin and his lackeys, I mean, it was just a delight. It was a blast to watch. And finally, the characters. I mean, surprise, surprise, I liked all the characters. I mean, I've been praising this film for the past 5 or 6 minutes, so it's no surprise that I also like the characters. Miles Morales is such a good Spider-Man. I really hope that they continue to tell his story, as there's so much interesting things about his character that they have yet to explore. And yes, I did read the comics, so I want to see more from this character. I already kind of relate to him, as I too am a nerdy black guy with an afro who can't really talk to girls. I can never do the whole shoulder thing. Hey, see? It's just creepy, right? But he's very relatable. You can tell that he has a good heart, and he loves hip-hop music. I'm sold. And then there's Peter B. Parker. Yep, there's a different Peter Parker in this film, who's a much older Spider-Man, a veteran Spider-Man, who's very pessimistic because life has beaten him down so many times. He's kind of given up the whole heroic shtick. And I like this whole master-mentor type relationship that he has with Miles Morales. He's not a good teacher, I'll be honest. He's not a great teacher, but they have great chemistry, they have great banter, and I did feel a connection between them. And I kind of like how his story gets resolved. It doesn't end like all happy ending kind of stuff. It's open-ended, but it tells you that there's still hope out there. And I like how he teaches Peter Parker some valuable lessons, whether they be good or bad. And then there's the 3 bizarre yet extremely interesting Spider individuals. Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, and Penny Parker. Spider-Ham is just a delight. The guy is so much fun to watch. There's a moment where he does act serious, which was kind of strange, yet it also kind of worked for me, but all the time, the guy is just a freaking cartoon character, and I loved it. Spider-Man Noir, he kind of took himself very seriously, which is the point of this character. He's the noir detective type character, and he pulls it off very well, and he's voiced by Nick Cage. I mean, you can't go wrong there. And then there's Penny Parker. Sony, listen to me. You listen right now. You better green light a Penny Parker anime or movie right now. Right now. This character stole the movie. The moment she shows up, I was instantaneously hooked on her. I just couldn't get enough of this character, and I wish she got more screen time. She doesn't really get a lot of development in the film, and that's understandable because it's not really her story. But hey, you set up the potential to tell her story, so you better make that film, Sony. You have a golden opportunity. Do not waste it. Do not! Do it now! I also like the really nice detail of whenever she talked, it looked like she was just talking like an anime character would talk, as if she was dubbed over. Yeah, very nice, very clever visual gag. And also, one more thing, I also forgot to mention this. The voice acting's great. Everyone does a fantastic job. Jake freaking Johnson, a guy I cannot stand, was actually really good as Peter B. Parker. This might be his best performance he has ever given. I've never liked Jake Johnson. Ever since Let's Be Cops, I hated this guy, but he does a really good job. Really good job. The geeky guy from that one movie that came out like 2 years ago, I forget, I'll put his name here. He was great. Oh, Dope. The movie was called Dope. The main character from Dope, he was fantastic. Nick Cage is great. Haley Steinfeld is great. The guy from Atlanta was great. Mahershala Ali shows up in the film. He's great. Everybody. Fantastic. Liev Schreiber as Kingpin, wonderful, just so great. Lily Tomlin as Aunt May. Oh my god, that was a surprise. But, oh, I really hate this part, but I gotta do it. We now reach the point where I must address all of the issues I had with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And upon further reflection of the film, I think my biggest issue with it was with the treatment of Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Gwen. They could have done so much more with this character. I felt like they dropped the ball with her. I'm not saying she's a bad character. I still like her character. She's still fun. The problem is that what could have been a really dynamic, three-dimensional, interesting character turned out to be a one-note, stoic, badass female character, which is not a bad thing. But there's just so much potential with that character. You could have done so much more with her and kind of really fleshed out the relationship she was forming, the friendship that she was forming with Miles Morales. Because by the end of the film, you're supposed to feel like they've grown closer, but to be honest, I feel like he's grown more closer to Peter B. Parker than he did with Gwen Stacy. And that's a problem because they're supposed to kind of be the main friendship that's formed through this whole situation. I didn't feel it. And it really sucks because it could have worked if they just spent more time fleshing it out. Maybe even have like a really small moment, really small sentimental emotional moment between her and Miles Morales. Maybe even them talking about what it felt like to get their powers. You know, they're the same age. So they could have had a little moment on the rooftop where Gwen Stacy was like, I remember the first time I got my powers and how weird that was and me learning it. And, you know, it takes time, Miles. You're not going to learn it right off the bat. You know, you're going to learn it, you know, maybe even have a small moment, maybe a romantic moment where they're swinging around New York and she's teaching him how to use the web slingers. See, how am I thinking of these premises and you guys didn't think of this? You easily could have done this. Maybe, you know what, maybe there's going to be like a deleted scene in the DVD Blu-ray release for this film that shows this, and I'm gonna be yelling at my screen like, why wasn't this in the film? Another major issue comes from the animation of the film. Now granted, it's unique, it's stylistic, it looks great, but there are some parts where it looks like it's out of focus. Now I get that that's the intention, it's supposed to look like that, but it's really jarring and distracting when you're watching the film and something's just out of focus. You know, the filmmaker in me is like, oh man, can we just like focus in a little bit more, you know, keep this scene focused, or it looks kind of blurry in some parts. And the last problem I found with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is this. Remember earlier how I said that most of the jokes in the film landed for me? Or there were some that didn't because they just felt out of place, were unnecessary and ruined a dramatic moment in the film. Just an out-of-place comedic moment that just did not need to be there or inserted there. And it happens 2 times in the film. The first one is when Miles Morales is in a graveyard. You know, it's this kind of sad moment where he's like, I don't know what to do. I need help. I need guidance. And then somebody comes around and then he shocks them. It leads to this like comedy, goofy skit where they're running away from the cops. And they even hit a gravestone of a very important person. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of insulting. What the heck, man? And then the second one is where Miles Morales, he's in a very trying and emotional moment. He lost somebody close to him. And, you know, the spider individuals are trying to comfort him and let him know that, you know, this happens. You know, each one of us have lost somebody important to us. And you just can't save everyone. A very powerful moment that gets ruined because his roommate comes into the room. And then the spider people are like, okay, wait. Don't get caught. Don't get caught. And then they get caught and the guy faints, and then they go back to the dramatic moment. And I'm like, what? Okay, let's just take that comedy beat, let's take that and throw it out. We don't need it. Just keep the drama. Just keep that dramatic scene. It's so good. Well executed, well deserved. I don't hate it. I think it's great. But that one comedy bit in the middle of those 2 dramatic scenes is just weird. Why is it there? Take that out. But let's be honest, guys. Overall, though I found some issues, I had a blast watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. As I said earlier, it is the best Spider-Man film since Spider-Man 2. And I get it, many of you are probably mad because you love Homecoming. And Homecoming's not a bad film, it's a decent film. This is actually a really good film that everyone should go see. The animation's great, the characters are fun, the story's interesting, the action's great. It's just an overall fun time, and it is a film that is definitely worth watching. Go check it out. But as always, guys, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I would love to know what you guys thought of the film as well. Did you love it to death? Is it one of your favorite Spider-Man films of all time? Or you find it boring, dull, uninteresting, and you just couldn't get into it? And let me know, who is your favorite Spider individual? Whether it be in this film or any comic book renditions of them, comment below, let me know. And again, I would like to thank the staff and students of Inarawan Middle School for inviting me to this school yesterday. I had a blast talking to you guys about YouTube, playing some Smash Brothers and beating you guys soundly, and I really appreciate the drawing. I really appreciate the hospitality, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hopefully I get to see you guys again, and maybe we'll do some videos in the future, guys, so let me know. And Will, you're amazing, bro. Keep being a fantastic teacher for these kids. You're really doing a great job out there, man. But enough of that sentimental stuff. If you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic Crew, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm Tony II, the Black Spider Guy, known as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.